Hey guys, it's Lisa and welcome to my channel. I hope you guys had a wonderful Christmas, and I myself am ready to get back to regular decor. And I used to have an area in my store that my husband would purchase items for, and it was more rustic decor for men. And although he lost that because he stopped buying anything for it, and he let me have it for my paint area. I did find another area that I'm going to let him start buying for, and it's small, so it won't take as much for him to fill up, and then I'll have a little something for the men when they come in. And although this piece could be used in just regular farmhouse decor, and I think it would fit perfectly into it, I'm going to add this into his area for now until I get enough to really fill it up good. So this was one that I purchased from a friend, and the finish on it I just wasn't crazy about. So I'm painting this in the color cotton. So I'm going to give it 2 coats of the color cotton, and then I will do some light sanding on it. And although I was somewhat happy with the roof, I went over it with 1 coat of the color caviar. And then once that dried, then I just took some Mod Podge and added it kind of around the edges and in spots so that I could sprinkle some cinnamon on it and make it look like rust. So I'm concentrating more around the edges and just kind of sporadically putting this. I don't want full coverage on it, but once I get this on and sprinkle the cinnamon over it, then I just kind of took a blow dryer and blew off anything excess. And then I finished it off with a top coat. And I used a matte top coat here because I didn't want any shine. But I also sprayed the body of the barn with the top coat as well so that I could seal that chalk paint in. And when you use a top coat over the cinnamon, it takes away some of the cinnamon look, so it looks a lot more natural once you finish it off with the top coat. And this little barn, I don't know if it was originally a house, but I felt like it looked like a barn, had a light that you put into the back of it, so I really like the look of this, and it'll help light up this darker area. Now the second item that I'm going to work on, this is something I already had out in the store, but I felt like it needed a little something because this is not an old scoop. I wanted it to still be usable, so I didn't want to do anything with the finish of the galvanized, but this handle I felt like could use a little pop of color. So I'm using the color English Ivy, and that's a Dixie Belle color. So I just gave it 2 coats of that and let it dry well. And then I just took my little finger sander and did a little distressing on it, and then finished this off with a clear coat. And that's all that I did to this little scoop. And I think that color is going to be perfect for this, and it's going to go with some of the areas. Now, I said I used my finger sander, but here I'm using a baby wipe because I haven't yet sealed it. So I forgot that I used the baby wipe. You have to be really careful when you're sanding on a metal surface because it's easy to go down to the shiny metal finish, and that's why I decided to use the baby wipe here. And the next item that I'm going to work with is another barn, but this one is a barn birdhouse. So I buy these new, and this is how they come, and they need a little bit of help, I think. So I'm going to go ahead and keep the galvanized look because it has some distressed white on it. It's a little hard to see here, but it's kind of a neat look. So I'm using that same color of cotton white, and I'm just taking a small brush and putting a couple of coats on all this trim. And it's easy for me to trim out because this is all raised. And I think that helped a lot. And there is no trim on the side, so I only had to do the front here. And I don't like this red roof, so I'm going to paint this roof black. And there's a bird on the top of this birdhouse that is really distressed white, and I really like the look of it, but painting the roof black really made that show up better and gave that bird a much better look. And then obviously I'll finish this off with a clear coat. So I'll use the same clear coat, the spray-on clear coat that I used on the last piece, since this item will be an outdoor item. And I gave this 2 coats so that it's sealed well. Again, I kept this one very simple, and I can always add more if it needs it. But I find that these birdhouses sell really well when they're just simple, because it doesn't limit them. Now, I had this little mailbox, and I think it came off some apartments because they had handwritten some numbers on the front. So I went over those with black, because the rest of the mailbox is like a black enamel. But I'm going to be painting the body of this box in that same color of English ivy. So I wanted to make sure that I got good coverage over the handwritten numbers. So that's why I went over that with black first. And I had some, there was something on the side that I wasn't able to get off. I cleaned it and sanded it, but putting 2 coats of this green over it covered that well, so it ended up not being a problem. Now I'm going to leave the back of this black and also the lid black, and obviously the inside black. But all the rest of this will get 2 coats of the color English ivy. And then I'm going to add a Dixie Belle transfer to this. So this is the piece that I'm getting from on the farm. And that, again, that's a Dixie Belle transfer. And I'm just going to put this one little piece on it. And I feel like this will be perfect for this little outdoor mailbox. And then once I put that on, then I finish this off with that same clear matte finish. And I think I used Rust-Oleum for all of these. And I know that transfers can get a little bit pricey, but when you cut all your pieces apart, you can get a lot of projects out of these. So this one is a chance to use a very small portion of it for a project. And here is what it looked like finished. And I forgot to mention that I also took some baby wipes and did some distressing on this one. Now I had this sign that was black, and it had maybe the word Pantry on it. I've had these signs for a long time, and they had their time when they sold, but they just don't sell anymore. So I needed to change some of these out, and I thought it would be a good chance to work one into this little area. So I painted it with 2 coats of the color cotton, and I had the black underneath, so I had a good color to distress to. And I just took my electric sander and did some heavy distress on this. And now this is another part to that same transfer, and I'm going to add that to one side. Now this area that I'm working on is right at the entrance to the store. So I gave it to him because he built a little barnwood wall there, and where the drink machine is. And so I feel like the drink machine already kind of takes away from that area. So I felt like doing a little rustic outdoor area was probably the best chance for that looking good. So we're starting there at the front door, and then we're going to work our way slowly around the whole inside, and just really, really change up some of the areas. It's not been long since I changed them up, and so we actually redecorated by adding some walls or some wall finishes actually. And but I just, every now and then, I like to go through and really give it a different look. And so although we've done that and I don't have any plans of changing the walls or anything, I want to pull everything out and just start from scratch. And that really helps me to get motivated. And right after Christmas, I am very motivated to do some cleaning and revamping everything. So it's just a really good time for me to start working. So we'll start this area we spent one day in. And then for my next video, I'm going to be working with the honeybee area. And that's right beside it, also in part of the entrance. So that's what we'll be working on next, and that may take a couple of days, and we'll just kind of work our way around. So you'll see I'll be doing some vignette setups at times, and just kind of getting back to the basics of running the shop. Now, as you can see, I did some pretty heavy sanding even on that transfer to make this look like it's been part of this sign for a while. And now I'm using my little makeup brush and some Stazon ink and stenciling this stencil over on the other side. Now, I always use these little makeup brushes when I'm stenciling with ink, and it works really, really well. And I will add these in the description of the video. And although all these words are on one line, I'm just positioning it where I can use the bottom ones, and I wouldn't have room to put farm to table on the top from that same stencil. So I just used another stencil with a little smaller print, and that's what I'll be adding farm with. And then once I got this finished, then I went over the whole thing with some Van Dyke brown glaze, and that's a Dixie Belle product. And it just kind of took away from that stark white look and gave it more of a rustic finish. And I also had a white wooden box, and I'm just going to give it a makeover. These are all mostly simple changes to these items. And I just wanted to make them fit into this area well. And my plan was to let him start collecting things to add to it, but I needed a good start for him. So I just took some of the items that I already had and made them fit better into that area. And this truck is all part of that same transfer, so I thought it would work really well in this little area. So I'm adding that to one side of the box. And this box was already white, already distressed, so I'm not going to have to do anything to it except add the transfer and do some stenciling on it, and finish this one off also with that Van Dyke brown glaze. I hope you guys had a great Christmas. We did. The weather here was just absolutely beautiful, and while it wasn't very Christmassy, when the kids came over and opened their gifts, we all went outside, and I live in a very small subdivision, and it's a good place for the kids to ride their bikes and riding toys that they got. So we just had a ball. It was fun, and we had a candlelight service at church, which we always do on Christmas Eve night, and it's just probably the most beautiful service of the year. I enjoy it so much. And then when we got home, we had a new neighbor move into our neighborhood, and he wanted to take some bags that were cut, that had star cutouts, and we lined the whole streets. Of course, we just have 2 streets in my neighborhood, and it goes kind of in a circle. So we lined the whole neighborhood with those bags and put sand and candles in them and lit up our street. And I wish I had gotten some good pictures of that. For some reason, I just couldn't get good pictures of it because it was so dark, but it was very beautiful, and we'll do it again next year. And it was just a very sweet thing to start in our neighborhood. This year it was kind of a big deal to start because there were, I think, 4 of us putting everything out. There were a couple of neighbors that put their own out, but for the rest, it was a little confusing this year because people didn't really understand what was expected, and we'll make it more clear next year and get a lot of help with it. So I just see this becoming a really good little tradition for our little neighborhood. So I'm using that same brush to do some stenciling on this one. And when it comes to your stencils, don't feel like you have to have a project that has the whole stencil on it, because you can use little bits and pieces just like I do with my transfer sets. You can just use parts, and the good thing about doing that is then your project is not cookie cutter. It doesn't look like everybody else's, and you just kind of put your own little spin on it. So that's all that I did to this, except for that brown glaze that I added to the entire thing. Now, what I did first on actually both this and the sign is I sprayed it with a clear coat before I added the brown glaze, because if you're not careful, you'll get too much of the glaze and not be able to wipe enough off. And with this one, I even used some clear wax to clean it up some more, because I didn't want it to be too dark. So again, here are some of the items that I made over today. And I feel like it's a good start to this little area. And the good thing about this type of decor is the more you pile in, the better it looks. I don't feel like you can add too much. I think as long as it fits, it works with this type of decor. So we're closed this week of Christmas, and my husband and I plan on doing some shopping. So hopefully he'll add some antiques to this, and that will really help the look. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening, and God bless you and your family.